This is Woodside Church Sunday.
Oh, it's weird hearing my voice. I'm usually standing here with loads of kids at Lighthouse, so you're all a bit more grown up than they are. It's a bit of fun. So as I've been fantastically introduced this morning, I'm Hermione Andrews. I have been at Woodside since I was 1, so 21 years now of being here. For those of you who don't know me, because I've seen a lot of new faces I recognise today, I have recently graduated, doing a master's in engineering. I cannot still fix things, just as a heads up. But I know the theory, so that's enough. As we've talked about a lot this morning at New Day, I've been on the catering team. We had a fantastic team serving, them cooking. I did cook, I stirred onions this week, even though the picture doesn't show me doing it. We have had a fantastic team. It's been a privilege to serve our children and to serve them food this week, just so they're nourished and that they've had a fantastic time. Another fun little picture to show. This is 2 butternut squashes, one of which was done by someone who's on the catering team for 3 years. The other one was done by the person who leads the catering team and has done it for 8 years. And it looks like it's been done by Edward Scissorhands. So, just to let you know, I am fantastic prepping, can't cook, but at least I can peel a butternut squash properly. So I'm going to be carrying on this summer series we've been looking at for the last 4 weeks. So we're looking at the I Am series. And today's topic, I have been given the I Am the Good Shepherd. So this comes from John chapter 10, it's in verse 11, but I'm going to read verses 1 to 15. So the verses will come on the slide for those who don't have a Bible with you. So I tell you the truth, anyone who sneaks over the wall of a sheepfold rather than going through the gate must surely be a thief and a robber. But the one who enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep recognize his voice and come to him. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. After he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them, and they follow him because they know his voice. They won't follow a stranger. They will run from him because they don't know his voice. Those who heard Jesus use this illustration didn't understand what he meant, so he explained it to them. I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. All who come before me were thieves and robbers, but the true sheep did not listen to them. Yes, I am the gate. Those who come in through me will be saved. They will go freely and find good pastures. The thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. My purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for the sheep. A hired hand will run when he sees the wolf coming. He will abandon the sheep because they don't belong to him and he isn't their shepherd. And so the wolf attacks them and scatters the flock. The hired hand runs away because he's only working for money and doesn't really care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and they know me, just as my Father knows me and I know the Father, so I sacrifice my life for the sheep. Now that is quite a long passage, and there's many things in it to unpack. So the context behind this, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, which are a Jewish group that believed in more of law and traditions rather than faith and grace. So he's trying to help understand the point of salvation by using an analogy they would be similar with, because shepherds were more common than we have now. Most people in here don't think any of you are shepherds. So he's just trying to get them to understand it in a way they'd be used to. So we're going to be looking at who are the shepherds. So shepherds are people they'd be familiar with. So in the land of Judea, most of the ground was rough and stony, and so they would have shepherds that are leading the sheep to green areas and just keeping them safe in a flock together. So the land would be more pastoral than agricultural, so they would have lots of sheep and shepherds around. They'd be constantly working. They don't have time off and like shifts they do. They'd be constantly with their flocks. And so the sheep would often wander off. I don't know if you've seen sheep. They often just leave wherever they like. They're not people that know to stick together as such. They will just go, oh, look, some grass, let's go. So it kind of is a really difficult job for a shepherd to look after that many flocks. So owning sheep was a sign of wealth. Though thieves would try to steal the sheep, they would try to come in and take them, because for them it was a large amount of money. So they'd constantly have to be vigilant. They'd have to be on the lookout permanently, watching where the sheep are, making sure they have enough, making sure there's nothing. And even with wolves, they'd have animals that are trying to kill the sheep, that want to hunt. And so they'd have to be constantly vigilant. This would also need courage and patient love for the sheep. I don't know about you guys. If I saw a wolf coming, I'd probably run the other direction. I'm not somebody who would go and attack it and try and protect anything. I would probably just scream or freeze. That's the other option. I would freeze. But these people would have had complete courage in those situations. So I've looked at what shepherds did in those days. So in the warm seasons, the hillside sheep, they just have enclosed areas that would just have a wall further out, but they wouldn't actually have a door. So a bit like we have gates that you could lock, they wouldn't have had gates. They'd have just had an opening to these fences. And so the shepherds would literally lie down and be the gate at night. So anything that comes into the sheepfold would have to enter over the shepherds. They'd have to literally walk over the shepherd to get to the sheep. And this is why Jesus is saying that he is anyone who sneaks over the wall of a sheepfold rather than going through the gate must surely be a thief and a robber, because the shepherd is the gate. So anyone who's trying to get in would have to go over the wall, and that is not somebody they want in their sheepfold. And this is the same as Jesus. So he is the gate to heaven. He is the gate as we can get in. He is the access between us and God. He is acting as the doorway. As he sacrificed his life, he became the gate into the sheepfold, and for us to be able to get to heaven and have a closer connection to God ourselves. So a real shepherd would have been born to the role. They would have been given a flock as soon as they were old enough, and that would have been their calling in life. They'd be given a shepherd role, and that would be it. So they think of the flock before themselves. If anything was a threat, they would put down their lives to protect the sheep. So that was their life's calling. They were protectors. Also in those days, the sheep would have been used to their fleeces. So a lot of the time, the sheep wouldn't have been killed for meat as much. So they would have had, the same shepherd would have had the sheep for years. This isn't just like a quick turnaround job. They would have known their sheep fully for such a long time. And the same with Jesus. He knows us for such a amount of time. He cares for us deeply, and he is always there. It's not just a short-term thing. This is through your life, Jesus is always going to be there. So looking at, I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for the sheep. Jesus is saying that he is the good shepherd. And he loved his sheep so much that he would risk his life. So sacrificing his life, he did for us on the cross. He gave his life for the sheep. He gave his life for us as we are the sheep. So these sets of verses show the characteristics of a shepherd, explaining how they're protecting and how they're caring, and how they just love their sheep no matter what. And that's their life is to protect their sheep. So, a bit of a personal story. In 2020, I know everyone had a really rough year for a lot of people. I was in my year 13 at school. So I was just doing my A-levels, which in fact got cancelled, which everyone was happy about. I was not. I had coursework I had to finish, which I still got done, just because I wanted to get it done. That year, I started university. So I left school in March, and we had a last leavers assembly. It was makeshift on the last day. We just got told to leave. And that in itself was awful. I loved school. I loved my teachers. Didn't want to leave. I'm not a fan of change, and a change in a day is a lot of change. I went from knowing what I was doing, having a whole year planned out, exams, then summer, a new day, to literally just being at home permanently with nothing to do. So I started university. I went to Cambridge, which, for those who don't know, is like a 30 to 4-minute drive in, I think, that direction. Don't actually know where we are, so I'm assuming it's that way. So I went to Cambridge, and it's close enough. However, during COVID, we weren't allowed to leave. So in October, I moved to university, we moved in, and my parents had to go home, and that was it. And I knew I had to stay there. There was no events. All the freshest things got cancelled. Everyone, unless they did parties that they shouldn't be doing, which I didn't because I'm a stickler to the rules, we just saw nobody. So I'd FaceTime with home, which I was very thankful for FaceTime, because genuinely saved my life in that year. But we had nothing going on. The only thing that was open to me was the chapel. So for those who don't know, Cambridge, it has like colleges where you stay, and that's your accommodation, and where you get support from tutors. And I was in St. John's, and we have a chapel with, they've got like the traditional chapel boys. If you've seen the Christmas King's College singing, same kind of thing. And that was the only thing I had to go to. So every single night for my first 2 years of university, I went to Evensong. And I did a 45-minute service, very much like stand up, sit down, However, that was my time where I would sit and I would pray about everything. I would sit and just go, do you know what, you've put me here for a reason. You have allowed me to get to Cambridge. You've given me this opportunity. I just need to keep focused on that. So for my first 2 years, chapel was absolutely everything. I did question why I'd been given a place at Cambridge, just because imposter syndrome, and also being away from home was not my thing. If you don't know me, I'm very much a home person. I love my family. I do a lot with my family. As you can see in the catering team, we're all together. All 5 of us have always been at New Day together, and so leaving home was quite a big deal for me. However, this reminder at night time, when I went to this evensong, was just a reminder God had put me there. He'd given me this new pasture that he'd led me to, and he was going to protect me no matter what. He'd given me this place, and he'd kept me safe. Even if I was away from Woodside, I still felt God's presence every night in the chapel. So God's not stuck in Bedford. He was with me over there too. And it wasn't that long a distance, but he was there as well. So I felt like this was a real enemy trying to take my time away from me at Cambridge, trying to ruin what I had at home. But actually, God put me in a place of joy and peace where I could just sit and just pray. And then we had graduation, which was this year, back in June. And we had a chapel service that me and my parents went to. And they did the same Eucharist that they'd done in my first 2 years. So I did a 4-year course. I went to chapel every day for the first 2 years. I took some time away from the chapel, but I used to then, once COVID and restrictions eased, I came home every weekend, so I'd still be at Woodside. And then my course got a bit busier, so I then didn't go to the chapel as much. However, graduation, we had this chapel service, and they did the same Eucharist that they did every single night these first 2 years. And I sat there, and I was a bit emotional. Didn't think I would be, because I was happy to leave university. But it was a reminder that actually, over the course of the last 4 years, God has been there throughout. That in my first couple of weeks at university, never thought I'd made it to the end, and fully thought I would happily drop out if I could. But actually reflecting on it, God had been there throughout. He'd given me people that I could have support with and I could share my faith with. I have 2 best friends who are both Muslims, and do you know what? I have had a fantastic time sharing what our church does, breaking these stereotypes they had in their head, because they had not pictured Woodside. If you say about church, this is not what they expect. They're expecting traditional hymns and stuff people can't connect to. And I've actually opened their eyes to what church can be like. And he has put people in my path like that, where I have been able to just share my faith with people. And so it has been a fantastic time. Even in the last year, we've had loads of health issues and people passed away in our family, and God has been there throughout. It has been difficult, but he has just given the support we needed, and he has led me through to these pastures. So King David is a shepherd boy. As we know, he was a shepherd growing up, and he referred to God as the Good Shepherd. So in Psalm 23, it says, "The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and staff protect and comfort me." Now, this was a testament to my 4 years. He had led me through these darkest places where I just felt like giving up at university and just wanted to leave, and that I really struggled being away from home. If you've ever moved to a new place, it's difficult moving away, especially if you have nobody you know, nobody to connect to. It can be really hard. But he is there to protect you. Do not be afraid, for you. He is close beside you the whole time. He will protect and comfort you. So the Lord is my shepherd. Shepherds know their sheep very intimately. They know each other. They know each sheep by name. They often have names so then they can call out for different names and the sheep will respond. And they know their dislikes and likes, where they just know how each sheep, I won't say ticks, that's not the great word, but they know how each of their sheep lives, and they just know them really well. So the Lord is like this. He knows us so well. He knows every single one of you, inside and out. He knows what you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing. He knows your fears. He knows what brings you joy. He knows every single part of us, and he knows us all individually. So without hesitation, the sheep will follow a shepherd. Knowing that he is in the lead, they will follow their shepherd. They won't be put off by other shepherds who come in who are false. They will know the true shepherd and will follow them. So even though we're looking at the shepherd knowing us all individually, we are always part of a flock. We are always part of the same church, the same community, and we are all part of God's community together as a flock of people. So he rests me in good meadows. In the Holy Land, it tends to only rain between November and February, not unlike England, which seems to rain most of the year round. So green pastures are actually only available for around 3 months in the whole year. So shepherds would often just try to find any grass they could. They would lead them around. Lots of it was just stony and rocky. But over these 3 months, they would find grass. However, God is saying that he will lead us to these green meadows. He will find these green meadows, which are a rarity in this world. He will lead us to these places where we can just nourish and rest. So God is promising us in this passage. He is promising us this rarity that we can have. So if you remember back in John 10 that we read earlier, it also mentions green meadows when it says, they will come and go freely and find good pastures. My purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. God is promising these green meadows where we can just nourish ourselves. We can sit and just be home and be looked after. And then he leads me beside peaceful streams. It's talking about how the shepherd will check the path ahead and we will be led to these peaceful places. And he leads me as well. We are not being forced along this path. We are there. We are choosing to follow him. We are choosing to follow this shepherd who knows exactly where to go, who knows what is in store ahead. We can't see what's ahead. If you've ever been hiking, if you're climbing up a mountain, you cannot see what's on the side of the mountain. You cannot see what's coming. However, he does. And so he is leading us to these places. So it's important we also know to follow his voice. So this was saying that in John 10 it says about the gatekeeper opens the gate for him and the sheep recognize his voice and come to him. God is calling us, and God is always saying, each and every one of our names, he is calling us. But we need to know how to listen to him as well. We need to be able to hear his voice. Ollie did a talk about this a while ago, and if you haven't listened to it, it'd be fantastic. Yeah, I'd recommend going back and listening to it, just about knowing God's voice. So we are called to be shepherds. As people in here, we are called to be shepherds, imitating Jesus, sharing God's word and showing his love for others. But we are also called to be part of the flock. We are called to be part of God's community, following God's voice and helping each other to stay on the right path. Loads of people in our church are shepherds. The youth team have done this wonderfully at New Day. They have been shepherds to all of the sheep of the youth. They have led them in prayer and worship, and they have just been showing God's love for them. They have just been keeping their focus fixed on God, leading these kids to places that lots of them have never been to before. At Lighthouse, which is our kids group on a Tuesday night, we have year 3s, 4 and 5s, and we are shepherds to those kids as well. When my mum and dad first started Lighthouse, she had the word given to her, feed my lambs. And so now we serve sandwiches, which for lots of the kids was the only meal at dinner time if they're coming out for a group. And so we are trying to nourish them and allow them to come to these groups where we can just lead them to God's love. We can lead them to the amazing God that we are all serving. Same on a Sunday, we have so many teams that are helping just to lead the kids towards God. We have got the kids work team and the youth team, and these are all people that are acting so well as shepherds, just trying to imitate God and just trying to help these kids know how much the Lord will protect them and care for them and how amazing he is at doing that. So I was slightly early, apologies, but we're going to carry on going anyway. So we've been looking at Jesus as the Good Shepherd. Jesus knows us all perfectly. He knows us all really well and can call each and every one of us by name. He leads us through our paths in life and provides his place for us to rest. So we should follow God, knowing his voice and trusting that he will protect and care for us. So I want to challenge you all this week to be shepherds to other people, leading them, telling them about God, telling these stories, sharing your testimonies, and then just leading them to God's love and that they can too get to know the Good Shepherd. But we're also called to be part of a flock. We are called to be part of God's community. and then just sharing and just helping lead each other. If one starts wandering off, sometimes others will follow, but we need to keep together as a pack, as a flock of God's people, just serving each other and helping each other, just keep our eyes and hearing God's voice ahead of us. So I'm going to finish on a prayer, as I am 5 minutes early, but that's fine. So if you want to close your eyes. God, I just want to thank you that you are the Good Shepherd. I want to thank you that you are here to protect and care for us, that you know us all incredibly well, that you have just given your life so that you could be the gate into the sheepfold, that we can have access to you and your love because that you have laid down your life so that we might enter and be part of God's kingdom. Lord, I want to pray that the people in this room, that they will be able to be shepherds to other people who don't yet know you, that they will be able to lead them into your love and towards just hearing your voice, and that they will be able to bring testimonies of how you have protected and cared for them in their lives, that in the darkest valley you've been there beside them to protect and care with your staff. Lord, I just want to thank you for your amazing love and your protection. Amen.
Thanks for joining us. For more information, visit woodsidechurch.com or follow us on social media.